I don't know how it's possible that I'm not Irish because of my great love for all Irish themed and St. Patrick's Day themed foods. From Baileys to Guinness to sauerkraut to bangers and mash. I just love it all. So let me share with you in this video 3 of those foods. We have an appetizer, a dinner, and a dessert. Oh, this dessert. Speaking of Baileys, stay tuned for the dessert. It is so delicious. So let's get into it and let me share all of these with you in the theme of St. Patrick's Day and Irish themed foods, and let's get into it. Once again, I've got to be Irish. We're gonna have to find out and see. Let's get into the kitchen.
The appetizer I'm making are these Reuben Bites. They are so easy and exactly like a Reuben sandwich, but perfect to take to a potluck and share with others. First, I start with our corned beef brisket. The corned beef comes in 2 varieties, point cut and flat cut. Today I'm using point cut. I prefer flat cut, but this is going to be fine. Both are delicious and will work for this recipe. So this cut of meat can be a little salty, so I rinsed my brisket under water to help get some of that salt off. The brisket comes with this little seasoning packet, and I'm going to sprinkle that all on top.
And now I have this Irish stout. This is Maguire's Drought Stout. It's a dark beer. You could also use Guinness. Guinness is very popular. This is what I had available, so I went ahead and just got this. I'm going to use half the bottle. So we're just going to pour that all around our meat. We'll go ahead and drink the rest. And I'm gonna set my crock pot on low for 6 hours. Give that cover and we'll see it back in 6 hours.
After 6 hours, our brisket is all done and tender, and this brisket is so great. It could also be on Hawaiian rolls, makes great sliders. In fact, I've done that in another video, and I have 2 other videos of appetizers for St. Patrick's Day. I'll leave links to those in the description box, but let's get started with our little Reubens. I'll take my brisket out of the crock pot, and the assembly is super easy. I start with pieces of marble rye bread slices that I've cut into squares after toasting them in my air fryer with a little bit of butter. I'll slice my brisket into pieces, and then I have slices of Swiss cheese that I've torn into squares, and I'll add those first to my toast squares. I'll then add my sliced corned beef, trying to do this while it's still warm to help melt that cheese. Next, I'll add a forkful of sauerkraut from a can with the liquid all drained out, and I will top it with a dollop of Thousand Island dressing. For a little garnish, I'm going to add some caraway seeds on top, and then you can always pop these little Reuben Bites back in the air fryer for a minute or 2 to warm them back up. I love these so much. They're the perfect bite, all the flavors of your favorite Reuben sandwich without eating a whole sandwich, so you can save room for all those other wonderful foods and desserts on the menu.
So this next recipe is inspired by a meal I made recently with pork dumpling wontons. And it was such a wonderful dish because I put everything in one casserole dish and it all baked together. And it had the wontons, it had bok choy, and it had a delicious sauce. So I was thinking, could I perhaps, using different ingredients, use the same cooking method and kind of swap things out and end up with just as a delicious meal as that one? That's what I'm hoping. So instead of wontons, I'm using pierogies. These are fully loaded. So these are loaded baked potato pierogies. So they're stuffed with potatoes and cheese and chives and sour cream. So yummy. And then instead of the pork filled for the wontons, I thought, why not add a little protein with some ale and onion sausages to our bake? And then for the sauce, we're gonna do a lemon Dijon sauce. And instead of bok choy, we're gonna use kale. So I'm thinking a simple swap of the ingredients is going to keep everything else kind of the same, and it's gonna cook and bake and make a wonderful, wonderful dinner. So that's what I'm hoping. We're gonna get started by slicing up our sausage and preparing our sauce. So I'm gonna squeeze some lemons. And then we're gonna add a little bit of minced garlic. I'm gonna do about a tablespoon. Then I'm gonna do some Dijon mustard. And I'm just eyeballing all this. I am not doing any measurements. So our Asian recipe had coconut milk. So instead of coconut milk, we're going to use heavy whipping cream. So I'm just going to stir this in. Our Asian recipe also had a little bit of sesame oil in it, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of olive oil. This is just gonna help thicken it up and give us more of a rich sauce. So let's blend that in. And I took a little taste. That lemon juice really is great with that cream and the Dijon, so it's tasting wonderful. Really, really loving it. I'm gonna add more cream because we have a lot of these pierogies, and I really want to get everything covered in the sauce. So let's make sure we have plenty of sauce. All right. Let's add a sprinkle of salt. Stir that in. Now let's add our pierogies. Let's get those covered in our sauce. I love this whisk. It is so great. Collapse it, whisk together, and then it also grabs things so easily. It's my favorite whisk. So mix that all in the sauce. Try to get every single one of these coated. Okay, we're gonna let that sit in the sauce, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut our sausages.
Now these sausages are fully cooked, so they just need to be heated through, then they're ready to serve. So the main thing we're cooking are the pierogies, since they're completely frozen. And then the kale, we just want to cook that and get that wilted down. But that's what makes this dish so easy, is everything gets baked in one dish and it just comes together so nicely in the sauce.
All right, let's slide our pierogies back over. Let's add our sausage. And then let's add our kale. Let's mix all of that in. And I think I'm gonna add a little more cream. Make sure our kale is coated. That way it doesn't char in the oven. We don't want it to get too crispy and burn. Just a little more. All right.
This is now ready to go into a 375-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. After 15 minutes, I took it back out and I'm stirring it again because the kale was starting to get a little brown on top. So we're just mixing it again, getting it under everything, and I'm going to put it back in for another 10 minutes. Out of the oven, and our Dijon cream sauce smells amazing. Let's go ahead and plate this up, and we are ready to eat. When I bought these sausages, I thought I'd make this as a sheet pan meal, but I'm so glad I remembered that Asian dumpling bake and made this the same way, but with this different sauce. It is what makes this dish, and it was so easy, and most of all, it's delicious. The pillowy potato pierogi with all the lemon and the cream, and the kale is the perfect vegetable with this. And it's a great meal to have on St. Patrick's Day. Up next, it's time for dessert, and I'm making an Irish cream poke cake. This was so incredibly delicious, and it's the perfect thing to bring to all your potlucks.
So our dessert today is going to start with a boxed cake mix. This is chocolate fudge. Any brand is going to do, and I'm just going to follow the directions on the back of the box with the eggs, water, and oil. So I have in here the cake mix already. Now let's add our 3 eggs, our 1 cup of water, and our ½ a cup of oil. Using my stand mixer, I will just mix everything together. I have a 13 by 9 pan here, and we're just going to pour everything in. I did spray the bottom of this with some spray. Okay, this will go into a 350-degree oven for 28 to 30 minutes since it's the 13 by 9.
And after 30 minutes, our cake is done and smells wonderful. And we are now ready to make our sauce.
While our cake is cooling, we're gonna add a ½ a cup of sweetened condensed milk, to a pan, a little pot here over medium-high heat. We're gonna add half a cup of Irish cream. And this is the brand I'm using. That's half a cup. We're just gonna stir constantly until the mixture is warm but not boiling. So I'm gonna lower my heat just a little. Now that that's warmed through, I'm gonna add 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. We're gonna stir until these are all melted and everything is nice and smooth. Now that this is nice and smooth, I'm gonna turn off the heat. Now that our cake is cooled, I have this chopstick. I'm just gonna use the end to poke holes all throughout the cake.
I poke the holes about 1 inch apart and do lines all the way through the cake. It's kind of satisfying. And now I'm ready to put on my sauce.
We're gonna pour it all over.
Poke cakes are so popular. There are so many variations you can make. Let me know, do you make poke cakes? And if so, tell me which ones you make. Put it in the comments. I'd love to know.
I'm gonna cover this and put it in the fridge for 2 hours. We're now gonna make the whipped topping, and it starts with 2 cups of heavy whipping cream, 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar, 2 tablespoons of Irish cream, the liqueur, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla.
I'll whip everything together with my hand mixer until stiff peaks have formed.
Okay, let's put the whipped cream on our cake. It's been in the refrigerator overnight. And some mini semi-sweet chocolate chips. And I have my little scraper and a little dark chocolate.
I made this dessert for my soup group when I hosted, and they loved this. It was so good. The layer of condensed milk with the Baileys and the chocolate, it made it almost like a fudge sauce. It is a little thicker than condensed milk, but everything together is so delicious. I highly recommend making this. I think it'll be a hit at all your parties and all your events. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you were inspired by all these Irish and St. Patrick's Day themed foods. I look forward to making another soon. Thanks so much. See you on the next video.